Hey all, this is Kim. Today I'm going to show you the top 10, 11 things every resin newbie must have. Let's get into it. So the first thing that I think you need, not the most important thing, but first thing are these silicone mats, right? The resin doesn't stick to them, and I've made the mistake because sometimes you just get going and you want to be creative, and I poured resin on my tabletop there. You just see, I've just done a lot of damage to it, and I've had to, sand off resin and use the chisel to get them off. But these are awesome. I got these on Amazon. Everything I'm showing you, there'll be links to them. So this is number one, silicone mats. And then I also have this really big one. This one is brand new. So I'm going to open it up and leave it on the table because this is what I'm going to be using to do my next projects on. Be careful not to pull too hard. You don't want to rip it. Alright, so this side's going to go down on the table. And then now I have just a nice clean surface that will soon be as dirty as the previous silicone mats, but definitely will protect your table. And here's just a couple more colors. They have a nice blue, green. These are my newer mats. I showed you the pink ones that were not so pretty. These are that same size but newer. The most important thing that you'll need is this. This is a respirator. It's very important that you protect your lungs from these fumes. Some of the resins are non-toxic. I still am going to use a respirator. Want a well-ventilated area. This is the one that I use. I have a couple of extra filters on hand. And I don't know, it's not so bad. You run a fan, I don't really get that hot in it. I feel like I'm a professional resinator, and so this is very important, very, very important. I cannot stress enough how much you want to protect your lungs. Actually, there's a video from a young lady who does talk about how her lungs were damaged, so we really, really need to be clear about using protection for your lungs. So most important this. The second thing that is the most important thing, they're all really important. You really can't do this without any of them. So gloves, you're going to need gloves. You cannot get this stuff on your hands, on your skin. Again, people have, if you want to search it, people have talked about getting breakouts from resin. So you always want to have latex gloves. You want to make sure that they are not porous and nothing is going to go through them. So safety first, guys. This is a chemical. This is a chemical that we're going to be working with. So safety first. Okay. Then you need a stir stick, right? Because you're going to be stirring 2 parts resin, and you're going to need a stir stick. Very, very important. Cups to stir in. I have these handy dandy silicone cups, again, Amazon, and they show you, the measurements, so it's just very easy to pour in 2 parts resin when needed. I use this one in my vacuum chamber, or if I'm pouring, just a lot of resin at one time. So silicone cups, very well used, very well loved. And I actually have a new set that I just got because these are definitely on their last leg. But I love them. That way you don't have to go through those plastic cups. Here are some plastic cups that you are going to want to have on hand. They're not good to really measure out. You see it, they're kind of at an angle, right? So it's not you definitely are going to want to use those silicone cups, but sometimes you're going to need plastic cups. You're going to need them to mix stuff in. I have these little cute ones also. I kind of like them for certain things, mixing certain things, especially smaller amounts. It's so easy to mix a lot of resin, but I like these little cups too. Always plastic. I've tried paper cups. Paper cups will definitely change the molecular structure. It does something to the chemical where they're not as useful. So no paper cups, only plastic or silicone. And then, of course, the bestest, the most funnest, the just most brilliantest part of resin are colors, as many colors as you possibly could, buy. You wind up with so many. But these are the mica powders. I definitely would recommend mica powders. And on top of mica powders, I'm going to say you need resin pigment. The resin will yellow over time, so they're going to help with that yellowing, with reducing that yellowing, because it'll have a nice see-through pigment. These micas here, you're not going to see through them, right? After pigments, what do you want? Molds. If you're doing resin, you absolutely have to have molds. Now, I have a lot of different molds here, and some of these I will pour resin directly in. I also like to do silicone inserts, which is something new, and there'll be a couple of videos coming up for that, so make sure that you subscribe and like and comment and share. But you want molds, and there are cheapy molds, there are expensive molds. Just have fun. Over time, I've kind of collected these over about 2 years. I've cool light fixture mold, ashtray mold, more light fixture molds. You'll see some of the things I'm going to do with that. And that's a fairy up in the top left. And so just molds, 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 molds. And then a cutting board. I find a cutting board that you're going to have an old cutting board somewhere around the house. You put that silicone mat on the board, and then you can move it around too. If you don't have a larger table, the board is going to, just allow you to kind of place it in another spot. But I find using my old cutting boards just very valuable. Of course, you could buy new ones too, but I try to recycle what I have in the house. All right. Now, these are really, really important, I find, because sometimes you need the fans on, you need to vent out, and these are actually to cover food for picnics, but it can help keep the dust out. If you move your hand over your resin piece and something falls in, right, that's always heartbreaking. You don't want extra dust, and so I love these, and I absolutely find them necessary for my resin work to help keep all that excess and to keep out the dust. There's a fly. I don't know. You don't want something landing on your resin. We've heard the stories of someone, waking up and there's a fly or something in their resin. It has happened. Google it. Check your groups. Ask your friends. I promise. Okay. And then this is called a vacuum chamber. Now there's a pressure pot. There's vacuum chambers. I will let you kind of research that, but this is very valuable for certain resins. Not all resins. Like one of my resins, this one here, I'll show you the picture. That resin does not do well. It heats it up too much, and by the time I get it out of the vacuum chamber, it's almost solidified. But the art resin does really well in the vacuum chamber. Resins that have longer curing times. And then the pressure pot will be used for larger. I'm afraid I have not used one yet. I will have to braven up and get to that, but I'll use this just to minimize some bubbles. Okay, and then of course, resin. Resin is what you need to work with resin. I am currently playing with this super clear resin. It dries really quick. I'm really happy with it. I have the stuff on the right that's liquid glass. This resin on the right, it's supposed to you're supposed to be able to pour it thicker, right? I'm going to use that for the tabletop. It's been sitting for a while, so I hope it's good. But you pour it, and it takes a long time to cure, but it's supposed to have no bubbles because it takes that long curing time. Neither one of these will go well in the vacuum chamber. And of course, the most important thing, I don't know, everything is the most important thing, is a well ventilated. You need a fan, you need windows open, you need that respirator on, you need a very well ventilated place to do your resin. I hope this has been helpful. These are just some things that can get you started. Every single thing on here, you absolutely need to have a very safe resin experience. And again, that well ventilated area, Absolutely a must. If you see a video on YouTube and they're not venting their space out, please just wear the mask. Put on the respirator. This is where you don't want those little fumes going up your nose. All right, guys. Until next time, take care and be kind to each other.